Hi, and happy holidays. Welcome to a tasting and a celebration and frankly some deliciousness on some of our really favorite holiday recommendations. Really wines that are about splurging, really spending a bit more to get a bit more during this special time of the year. These wines that we'll taste today represent amazing wines that are great for any holiday feast or dinner or celebration with friends or family. And they're also really perfect wines to give as gifts to wine lovers in your life. They are really representative of popular styles, great values, beautiful wines, great looking packages. They taste wonderful by themselves, and certainly with food, they're just smashing wines that we're really looking forward to sharing with you during this holiday season. When we look at splurge wines, they're really wines that you would not necessarily open for dinner on a typical Thursday night or give as just a simple housewarming gift. These wines are special because they're made by special people in special places, and they really just represent exactly what they are perfectly. In other words, the bubbles, some of the best sparkling wine made in California, a phenomenal Chardonnay from Napa, a massively flavored, wonderful, delicious Pinot Noir from Santa Barbara County, and really the epicenter of the Cabernet world in California and really the world itself, Napa Valley Cabernet. So we look forward to talking about these wines, tasting them with you. We have, as always, some cheese pairings that we'll taste with the wines, but certainly we'll also talk about at the table or other foods how these wines will work and complement the different flavors of the season and really bring some beautiful, delicious flavors to your holiday celebrations. There's really only one way to begin any celebration or any meal. Some would argue even any day beginning with Y or ending with Y, and that's with bubbles, sparkling wine, champagne, really one and the same. And when we're looking for wines that are a little more, the prices are a little bit higher, but also represent amazing values, in our opinion, one of the very finest sparkling wine values in the world is not really from Champagne, it's from Napa in California, and it is the legendary heritage winery Schramsberg. And this particular wine is their Blanc de Blanc. And Blanc de Blanc simply is translated French of meaning white from white. And in this case, the white are the grapes used, 100% Chardonnay. The primary bubbles people in the world, in California, Champagne, wherever, the two dominant varietals used in sparkling wine production are Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. In this case, it's all Chardonnay, and the difference is really between a Chardonnay-based sparkler versus a Pinot Noir-based sparkler, or higher percentages of Pinot Noir. The Chardonnay-based wines will have great crispness, really beautiful, bright acidity, and a yeastiness that, a yeastiness that smells like you just walked into a great bakery and you're smelling the fresh baked bread. There's a great toastiness, yeastiness that is really the hallmark of quality sparklers from around the world, and this one has it in spades. As I mentioned, Schramsberg is one of the older producers. Actually, you could make the argument, the oldest sparkling wine producer in Napa. They were founded over 50 years ago, and what really got them on the map 50 years ago was that President Nixon took the Schramsberg Blanc de Blanc on his trip to China, and they toasted the newfound partnership in 1972, I believe, between the United States and China. And this is the wine that they used, and that was what really got Schramsberg on the map, not just in California and domestically, but really around the world. And even the wineries in Champagne start to recognize, just like that has happened with Chardonnay and Cabernet Sauvignon previously, that world-class wines, in this case sparkling wines, just like they do in Champagne, were being made in California. Now, I mentioned that this one has a yeastiness, a bread dough kind of a component to it, and it really is just something you really look for because of the way that champagne is fermented in the bottle, or sparkling wines are fermented in the bottle. That extended yeast component, first of all, it creates the carbon dioxide, which gives the wine its bubbles, but it also imparts added nuances and complexities in the wine that you can't get in any other way other than by keeping the wine on its lees or yeast for at least 3 to 4 years, like this one is. Aged in caves, beautiful winery, and it is just a wonderful wine to, like I say, begin any celebration, have during the celebration, or heck, have it after the celebration. There's no wrong time to, first of all, have great sparkling wine, and secondly, there's just no reason to never pair it with food. That's one of my missions and Heinen's missions as an organization, is that we believe every day is a good day for bubbles, but certainly they're phenomenally versatile, complex wines to have with food. And I always like to say, and I've said previously on other virtual tastings and in classes and to customers, that the best friend of bubbles are salt and fat. Salt because the saltiness brings out the fruit flavors of the wine. Think of champagne and caviar, very salty caviar, salted fish eggs, but that salt brings out a lot of flavor in the bubbles, and then fat is what really balances out the crispness of the wine with some richness on the palate. Great, great combination. So let's taste this first. And you'll get that brightness immediately, like I talked about earlier. There's a ripe apple, like a ripe green apple character to this. The yeastiness is also, or toastiness, yeasty, toasty, or interchangeable words to describe these kind of wines. Very, very evident in the palate, and the flavors, despite being very crisp and very vibrant, like I said, there's an amazing amount of complexity and flavors that really carry through to the finish. Just a delicious bubbles experience. If you're a bubble head and you've not had Schramsberg or had a Blanc de Blanc in a while, you're going to fall in love with this one as much as we are. Now, we chose the cheese to start with. This is a triple cream from California, ironically. It is from the Cowgirl Creamery, and it's cheese called Mount Tam. And Cowgirl, they're located right along the Pacific Ocean in Marin County, just southwest of Sonoma. And this producer makes amazing triple cream soft ripened cheeses. Triple cream soft ripened cheeses essentially mean they're full of creaminess, full of great butter fat that really provides that mouthfeel, again, with the to balance out the acidity in the champagne or the sparkling wine. And it's fresh and clean tasting, but it provides a depth of flavor that some breeze and just regular soft ripens don't provide. So let's give this a taste and try it with the bubbles. If you love brie, who doesn't? And you like soft ripened cheeses, creamy cheeses, and have never had Cowgirl Creamery cheeses or Mount Tam in particular, it's a joyride of flavors for your palate. It's absolutely delicious. And with the bubbles, immediately you'll notice that the wine really changes. And I say that in a great way, because again, the richness of the cheese counterbalanced with the crispness and the acidity of the wine, it makes both the wine and the cheese taste bigger, more expansive, more complex, and incredibly more delicious, which is always a good thing. That's a tremendous pairing, and I always like to say that that's my favorite pairing of the tasting until I get to the next pairing, which we'll do momentarily. Really hope you enjoyed that, and please don't forget the bubbles, not just during the holiday season, but year-round. There's a bubbles to fit any occasion, any mood, any celebration, or just celebrating because you want a nice glass of sparkling wine. Our next wine is from Napa Valley. It is the Frank family Chardonnay, and this wine, predominantly the grapes are grown in one of the great growing regions in California for Chardonnay or Pinot Noir, and that's the Carneros region. It straddles, actually, it's the only appellation that is shared by both Napa and Sonoma. It is the southernmost growing region in those two counties. San Pablo Bay is sort of an estuary off of the San Francisco Bay, so the same maritime influences that have really, really cold waters are the key here, because the cold waters moderate the surrounding vineyards, and cool climate grapes like Chardonnay and Pinot Noir really demand that and appreciate it, because you want to preserve the great acidity, in this case in Chardonnay. If Chardonnay gets too ripe, it loses its acidity, can become overly too big, too alcoholic. You want a Chardonnay to have a great backbone, nice acidity, nice crispness. That is essentially, with any wine, the backbone, the acidity, that is what's going to let the wine stand up to food, complement food, and really invite another taste. The Frank family, let's give it a smell, because I'm actually wanting to do this myself. The Frank family makes some really fun wines in Napa, but I think their Chardonnay is one of my favorite Napa Chardonnays at the moment, one of our Heinen's favorite Chardonnays. It really appeals, and actually all these wines, they appeal to, if you're a bubbles drinker, you're gonna, or not, you'll still appreciate the Schramsberg. If you like big, buttery, rich style Chardonnays, or even the crisper ones, there's a lot of flavors there that people are gonna like. On with the Pinot Noir and the Cabernet. These are wines that are as handcrafted as they are and artisan as they are. They really, really, really appeal to a lot of different palates. And in that regard, you can really have these at your meals or give them as gifts with great confidence, because if you just like fine wine, these wines really, really deliver to a really, really broad audience. Let's give it a smell again. One thing you'll notice is that while the barrel character, which provides the oak, cream, butter notes in a Chardonnay, is there, it shouldn't be one-dimensional. It shouldn't just smell like a glass of oak juice. And this one certainly does not. There's great honey notes in there, some tropical notes, pineapple, maybe even some pear. And frankly, it smells like Carneros Chardonnay. And if you have never had a Carneros Chardonnay, this really epitomizes what that region is all about. Let's give it a taste. Now, mentioned the acidity in this wine, and Chardonnay in particular. There's also, when you first get it in your palate, if you've tasted it, if you're lucky enough to be tasting these, I hope you are, there's a great richness and ripeness that is in that wine in the middle of the palate, and it fills your mouth with flavor. But the acidity, that crispness, is what really kind of, like I said earlier, brings you back for another sip. It doesn't come off as overly ripe or overly buttery or overly oaky. Everything is there. It checks all the boxes with the Chardonnay characters, but it does so integrated with all the other components. Balance is the key to any wine, and certainly this one offers just the reason why people like Chardonnay to begin with, and why Chardonnay is the #1 and most popular white wine in the world. But it really represents what Carneros Chardonnay is all about. That's a fun Chardonnay, and there's not a lot of people that have had this before. They're a smaller winery that we're really, really honored to carry, and we really look forward to having you try this, because it really it's a Chardonnay fan's dream. The pairing with this French cheese called Morbier. It is, if you can see or not, but if you are lucky enough to have bought it, you'll see in the middle of this cheese, it's a cow's milk cheese, as all of these are, by the way, today. This one from France has a washed rind, and if you bought it, you'll notice that it is very aromatic, very pungent. That's because the wine is raw. Rind is washed 3 times fast. The rind is washed, and what that does is it actually mellows out the cheese inside, but the exterior of the cheese, the rind, is very, very pungent. And you can eat that; it's all edible, but it's kind of bitter, and it will dominate the flavor of the cheese and certainly the wine. So you cut the rind off, and you're left with this creamy. And actually, the cheese itself it smells really, really mild. It doesn't smell like the rind at all. It smells buttery, which would be a great component with the Chardonnay. So let's taste that. Just a luxurious, little earthy, certainly salty, but It tastes a little gamey because of the soft ripened character, but it's just really, 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 as I said, luxurious and a big cheese, a lot of flavors, but not overdone. So let's give that a try with the Chardonnay. Well, I'll tell you what, that one really, the Morbier really, really allows the ripeness of the wine to come through. It tastes like somehow you're able to extract even more flavors. You squeeze more Chardonnay juice into the wine and somehow made it bigger. We obviously didn't do that, so it just really illustrates what a great pairing could do, not just to complement each other, but to change the whole dynamics of the flavors of both the wine and the cheese. Really excited about this Chardonnay and looking forward to having you try that. Now we're going to begin our first two reds. We'll go always, if you're doing it at the table too, by the way, with any wine, you want to go the lighter of the two, followed by the bigger of the two, simply because you want they don't want the big one to overwhelm the previous wine, or the following wine, should I say. You want the progression to be follow suit, so the wines don't cancel each other out or fight with each other on your palate. This wine, however, the Belle Glos, Clark and Telephone Vineyard Pinot Noir, I read something recently and I really agree with it. And I hope it doesn't confuse the issue, but the quote was that this is a Cabernet lover's Pinot Noir. Essentially what that means is it is a full-flavored, big, almost atypical Pinot Noir to a certain degree, in that it's just really, really big flavored. Pinot Noirs can be very, very delicate, or in this case, obviously, they can be very, very big and flavorful. But what I love about this wine is that despite its intensity and richness and really almost over-the-top flavors in a good way, that it still is 100% true to its varietal. It smells, tastes, and works just like Pinot Noir. I mentioned this is from Santa Barbara County, and the color, very, very deep and dark color for Pinot Noir. Santa Barbara is the broader county where this is from, but there's a smaller sub-appellation in Santa Barbara, the Santa Maria Valley. It's a little bit closer to the Pacific Ocean. That wine, or those vineyards, are about 13 miles from the ocean, and again, much like we talked about with the Carneros Chardonnay, a little bit further north, obviously, the proximity to the ocean is what Pinot Noir demands and absolutely needs. Primarily for the same reason as the Chardonnay, you want the wine to have great natural acidity along with the great fruit flavors. So get ready, because if you've not had a Belle Glos Pinot Noir before, again, single vineyard, meaning all the grapes in this wine come from one particular vineyard and one particular rootstock and different and their clones in the vineyard. It's the truest expression, truest way to get exactly what a wine tastes like and where it's from, by just having it come from one singular source. Kind of geeky, I know, but just kind of fun thing to talk about, because this really illustrates the sense of terroir, or the sense of place of being, and it really tastes like where it came from, which is kind of geeky but fun. So, yeah, wines to smell big. In other words, your palate says, yeah, I know what's coming next. This wine's going to be a blockbuster, and your palate will be right. There are amazing fruit essences that just jump out of the glass. I'm getting cranberry, which this time of the year would be a really, I guess, topical thing to have. And certainly there's cherries and blackberries. But it smells like Pinot Noir. If you've had Pinot Noir, you love Pinot Noir, you enjoy Pinot Noir, you're going to recognize this as Pinot Noir, albeit a big, gutsy, brawny, fun, unique style from California. So let's give it a taste to see if those flavors or the aromas that are present in the wine translate to the flavors as well. It's almost breathtaking how much flavor is in there. It just, and this is what I really enjoy about it, I guess, is that as much as it gives you in terms of flavor and intensity and richness, it's not overdone, if that makes any sense. I'm trying to think of a clever analogy, and I'm failing at the moment, other than to say it has a lot of flavor, but it's still in check. It's not dominant. It's not dominant on your palate, and it certainly will not be dominant with food. And I forgot to mention with the Chardonnay, that would be a awesome accompaniment to, in particular, shellfish with butter. It would just be a great, more of a complementary flavor kind of thing. But roast poultry would be excellent. With the Pinot Noir, I think that you could go almost roast poultry again, but even like gamier things like duck or pheasant would be killer. Anything with a cherry sauce would be amazing. Lamb would be wonderful, and actually, salmon is just tremendous with Pinot Noir. As a matter of fact, I'm not a big salmon fan. But I almost, to a certain degree, when I have Pinot Noir like this, I crave salmon because the pairing is just so perfect. Salmon by itself, with Pinot Noir, awesome. So there's a multitude of suggestions that you can do. Frankly, you're never going to be wrong on a pairing. You always have to drink what you like, but there are certain wines that complement foods better than others, and that's our job, is to try to close that gap and provide something that's really going to be perfect at the table and that you and your friends and family will enjoy. The cheese pairing is a cheese from England. It's called Il Truffalino, and incredibly from England, it's a truffle cheddar. And wanted to use this cheese because another great food complement for Pinot Noir is mushrooms or truffles, same family. The earthiness of mushrooms and truffles really pairs, really, or echoes, I should say, the earthiness of Pinot Noir, and it's just something that I don't believe any other red wine works as well with truffles or mushrooms like Pinot Noir. Some would argue Nebbiolo or the wines from Piedmont, and I would certainly entertain that one. But let's just say, for the sake of today, that if you really like mushrooms and you want to incorporate them into a dish somehow, or just stick with the old truffle cheese, you're really going to get a taste treat. So let's give that a taste. Truffles, they're just so good. What's amazing about truffles, if you're tasting the cheese at home, it permeates your sinuses. The truffle note is just so profound and intense that it's unmistakable, and it does certain things to your palate, brings out the umami that very few food or ingredients do, like truffles, and that's why they're expensive and beloved, but absolutely delicious. With the wine, well, it really brings out a more of a, and certainly those cherry, blackberry, cranberry flavors are there, but the cheese really brings out even more of that earthiness. Again, we talked about the earthiness of the mushrooms or truffles. Getting a little bit of a like a mocha or holiday spice, maybe some nutmeg in there. The bottom line is it just really increased the complexity of the wine. Once again, any good pairing should do that. Sadly, we are to the last wine of our tasting this evening, or today, and Cabernet Sauvignon, much like Chardonnay, is the most popular white wine in the world. Cabernet Sauvignon is the most popular red. And by the way, screw caps are our friend. Please do not be intimidated to think somehow that a wine with a screw top closure is any way deficient or not as special. I hope we're past that. The screw caps have been on fine wines now for well over a decade-ish, and it just really, it's a great preservative for the wine. It keeps the wine safe. I know certain times people like to pull a cork out of a bottle, but you also want to have make sure that what's in the bottle is what you want to open as well. So this is really kind of neat to have a Napa Valley Cabernet with the screw cap. This is called Quilt, and it is relatively new into our market. It is made by the Wagner family, who make some. Well, they own Camus, so that tells you a lot of what you need to know there. So what that means in terms of any of their wines, either at the Cayman side or with their new project like Quilt, these wines are big, intense, absolutely true to where they're from and true to what they are. In other words, this is true to Napa Valley and it's true to being Cabernet Sauvignon. Again, the color of this wine, please don't overlook that. Deep, dark, and intense. And usually a deep, dark, intense color of a wine will pretty much let you know that you're going to get the same resultant aromas and flavors, meaning deep, dark, and intense. This is grown from high quality vineyards throughout the Napa Valley. And as I mentioned earlier, Napa is not just the epicenter of Cabernet Sauvignon in America, but really in the world. And it really, Napa Cabernet is justifiably famous because it grows and creates magic in Napa like it does in few places in the world outside of Bordeaux potentially and just some other smaller places. But Napa is really where you want to look to for great Cabernet from California, with apologies to Sonoma. So when you give this a smell, it really, immediately there's a vanillin, mocha-y note, which is really from the barrel character, the toast of the barrel. There's a lot of, when they age, their wineries put wine into barrels. The newer the oak, the more toast and complexity you'll get out of that barrel. Sometimes if it's not used judiciously enough, it can be too much. But when you have intense grapes that go into the barrel, they end up really working well together. The oak doesn't dominate or the fruit doesn't dominate, but you get is complexity. So it just smells delicious. And all these wines, frankly, have smelled delicious. But this is one where just the anticipation to taste this, and you'll hopefully get that. You just want me to shut up and get into it. So let's do that. Yeah, there's so much going on there. Everything, if you're into Cabernet Sauvignon, everything you like Cabernet for is in there. But there's also all these underpinnings that are there that, frankly, if I were to say to anyone, to you, or you say to anybody that's watching this with you, what does it taste like? Whatever they say is correct. There is so much going on there. There's really not an incorrect answer. You could probably list about 10, 20, 30 different flavors or aromas and be accurate. But what I'm getting is like some ripe plum, if you want to talk about fruit flavors. Certainly that spice, that toast, that oak that's there. But as big as it is, and here's why I really, when it's all said and done, why I appreciate this, the roundness, the richness, the smoothness, the generosity that this wine gives, it's really astounding. Sometimes when Cabernets give you a lot of richness and a lot of flavors, they can be almost too young to drink. They're too tannic and too chewy. They really require some time in the cellar. All of these wines tonight, but in particular the Quilt, they're ready to drink when you get it. Which is great because it doesn't really matter how long a wine will age in the cellar. If you're buying it for tonight and serving for tonight, it needs to be something that doesn't require additional time. It should be ready to drink when you get it, and this one certainly is. We'll do a cheese with this, obviously, but I'll tell you what, this time of the year when this would work clearly with any great beef dish, but this time of the year, prime rib, crown roasts, fillets, any special kind of a beef or steak, this is the wine. Seems to be the reason why beef was created, to be paired with a wonderful Cabernet like this. The cheese, though, is a phenomenal domestic cheddar called Prairie Breeze, and it really it's a great cheddar, and meaning that is it's savory, it's salty and complex. And I think that saltiness and that almost richness of the cheese will be a great foil to the Cabernet. So let's give that a taste. Also, it makes an extraordinary grilled cheese sandwich. That's another story for another time. It's just an amazing, amazing amount of flavor. It really is. Gosh, if it's not the best domestic cheddar made, it's in a very, very short conversation. Let's taste. Well, there it is. Once again, It makes the wine taste bigger. It gives the wine even more flavor. But the cheese, the wine, or the beef, hopefully, in the wine, they work well in concert with each other. Nothing dominates. It's just delicious, full flavored, and we know and we're sure that you, your friends, your family, your guests will enjoy these wines as much as we do in finding them for you and presenting them on the tasting today. We really hope that you have enjoyed these wines, and we hope you'll enjoy them during the holiday season. And we certainly wish you and your family a great holiday season. And thank you for the comments on our previous tastings. We look forward to continuing along with our virtual events. And certainly if you have any comments, questions in our stores, please ask our team. And we look forward to doing more of these down the road. In the meantime, happy holidays. Cheers.